Alright, welcome back for some more Hearts of Iron 4 with Ripken. In this video series I'll be playing as the United States. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's the president. It's 1936. We're dealing with the Great Depression and undisturbed isolation, as you can see all those negative modifiers in the red. I'm also going to be playing on veteran. You can see those negative modifiers. Ironman Mode is on and historical AI focuses are off. Alright, so in this series I want to primarily focus on the war in the Pacific, have some decent naval battles, but with historical AI focuses off, anything can happen. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to let the clock go an hour here. Still on January 1st, I'm going to check what these other countries are doing. England's doing steady as she goes. Metropolitan France, 4-year plan for Germany. Ethiopian war logistics, finished 5-year. China, check out Mao. Purge the Kadoa faction for Japan. Not too familiar with the Mexican focus tree yet, but I'll figure it out as we go here. And Canada. Alright. And then I'm going to bring in my fleet. I'm going to bring them to the west coast, California. Dock them in San Diego. There's level 10 dockyard there. From there I'm going to split up the fleet, and we're not going to do too much with it right away. I've got a couple years of building up, so alright, and then I just want to grab up my army. Just hold shift and I can keep selecting the infantry with the mouse into the same grouping. I'm going to change all the division templates over to infantry. I'll bring them all to the mainland. I'll make changes to the trees, to the templates later, rather. But for now, can't really do much. Just take a look at it. For research, all pretty much standard stuff. Engineering, production, construction. That construction going. I'm going to stick with superior firepower. Continue on with that. As far as construction actually goes, this is all going to change. I'm just going to throw out some civilian factories and some infrastructure. I'm just going to tag all the land with 1, but I'll edit this later. If you don't already know, the House and the Senate are going to ask me to do things to gain support. I'm going to prioritize that. And I'm going to prioritize civilian factories, but I do want some of the infrastructure to build up as well early on. Alright, I know you're thinking, what is this guy doing with all the infrastructure? Don't worry, I'm going to emphasize the civs. I have done playthroughs where I've kind of mixed in civs and military factories going just to get my military production up, but for this playthrough I'm just going to go ahead and crank out civs early on and some of the infrastructure, and then I'll switch over. Anyway, that's all going to change. For production, I definitely want to get my motorized going, and I'm going to get started on some early planes just to stockpile them, because I imagine that if I am fighting on 2 fronts, or maybe even 3, I'm probably going to blow through a lot of planes. Definitely going to need naval bombers, carrier naval bombers, and those aren't so bad to stockpile in the beginning anyway. Close air support for sure. At some point when I start cranking out military factories, I'll get the transport planes going too, because in this playthrough I do want to utilize paratroopers. So that's something to look forward to. Alright, I think that looks good. I can't add anything else right now anyway, so as far as my naval production, I'm going to delete some of these destroyers. I like that we have a couple carriers in the production queue now. Alright, so now I just need to figure out, do I want these destroyers to get out, or do I want to add all of my production into all of these? Only problem is now I need to trade for a lot more chromium. I think anyway, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get my destroyers produced first, and then I'll focus on the bigger ships. Whoops. Alright, I think that looks good. And then I'll let the big ships fill in. I'm going to change the wings on the carrier to 2040. 20 fighters, 40 naval bombers. And I need to trade for some rubber and chromium. Alright. Nothing too excited yet. I know I'm going to continue with the new deal and start pumping out some more infantry. I'll just set them to deploy into Chicago. I'm going to delete these air wings and then redeploy them in groups of 100. And I'm also going to get rid of the carrier close air supports. I'm going to make the carrier wings 2040 as well. 20 fighters, 40 naval bombers. So we can go ahead and edit that. Yeah, I don't know, I like my carrier wings, 20 fighters, 40 naval bombers, but if you've found another composition that works better, definitely let me know in the comments. That seems to work just fine for me. So I'll just edit these. It'll take a while to produce to fill up, so I'm not going to worry too much about training the carriers and the wings early on. Need to redeploy all my wings. Like I said, I'm going to do these in groups of 100. And then I'll need to train them. So I mean, that's pretty much it. I know it's a lot starting out to go through. Just pretty tedious. And I like to edit the names of my theaters. Bring all the troops home to the mainland, and I'll get them training once they get here. So I'm gonna let the clock go ahead a couple days. I don't know, it might take a week or two for the fleets to get back, and then I'll make some more changes. I'm probably gonna speed up the video here as I move my civilian factory up. Like I said, I will emphasize on those. Senator from Nebraska offers support, so if I invest in the economy of Nebraska, up to 10 senators and 50 reps will support me. Essentially that just means add a civilian industry, civilian factory into Nebraska, so I'm going to do that. And if you shift click the green arrow, you add it to the top of the queue. I'm actually going to add a civilian factory also into New Jersey. And I've got 5 in the queues, 5 civilian factories, so I'm just going to speed it up. My fleet's almost in San Diego. Alright, so now that the fleet's in San Diego, I'm just going to right click on each ship type and separate them all. All destroyers, all subs. Alright, and then just for organization's sake, I'll give them their appropriate abbreviations. Battleship will be BB. And I'll link in the description to a website that kind of goes over all these abbreviations. I don't know them that well. I've just kind of read here and there. Like CV is carrier, CVE escort carrier, or light carrier. I'm just going to give my cruiser CA for cruiser armored. Light cruiser, well. I'm not sure if it was cruiser armored or just heavy cruiser. Light cruisers CL. I might just call these battle cruisers. I don't remember if it was CB or BC now. I'll just stick with CA because I don't really remember. Anyway, that's my heavy cruisers, light cruisers. DD for destroyers. And I'll just identify these as subs, since that's what they are. I'm going to send the subs and the destroyers to the East Coast. That way they can repair over here. And I'm going to control click on the dockyards that are lower levels. Anything a 1 and a 2 I don't need my ships repairing at. And this way, as I produce destroyers and subs, I can just send them to the appropriate naming convention and then separate them out of there later. Oh yeah, I'll remove the part of the fleet since it doesn't... I don't think it suffers from accidents, and I think it gets bonus experience for training, so that'll always be training. Anyway, just something I like to do. And I need to get my infantry training for some Army XP. They're not all home yet, so I'll wait on that, get my Air Force training. And as far as my national focus idea here, continue New Deal, WPA, Agricultural Adjustment Act. I have done playthroughs where I've done gotten the research going first, but I want to go down Neutrality Act, Arsenal of Democracy, Scientist Haven. The main thing is getting the Federal Housing Act, then I think I'll reach out to the WARE group. And then I'll come way over and do the War Department. So something like that is what I'm looking at. Obviously I'm going to need the House support and the Senate support to be able to do some of these things, so... Anyway, just to give an idea. One thing it's a good idea to do is go in and look at, like, this light cruiser was a minelaying cruiser. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in AMW for Advanced Mine Warfare in front of it and change the icon so that I know in my light cruiser types I can identify that by the icon. I'm actually just going to separate it out and name this grouping AMW Minelaying. That way I can kind of keep those organized. Alright, so one thing I do want to do is I want to modify these submarines, put torpedo 2s on them. And I think I'm just going to keep these as Porpoise Class. So now that I've changed that, the subs that I have that are close to it, these I'm going to upgrade these. You can go ahead and see the torpedo attack is quite significant. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade all of these. And at least get my subs up to date before I start making any different variant ships. And you can see it just will add them all into the queue.
Yes, sir.
One important thing to remember that in 1936 it's an election year, so don't put too much political power or emphasis on the lobbying efforts until after the election. That's what I like to do anyway. So fortunately I've gotten lucky with some RNG. I'm going to stick with the Democrats for 4 more years, although if you go Republican you get this political power, which is nice, but the people have spoken. And I'm going to start off now with a small lobbying effort. Alright, so before this first video concludes, because it's taken so long for me just to get through this first year, I'm going to at least create a variant of the Brooklyn class cruiser. So if you just click on duplicate, then you can modify it and it doesn't change your old ships or ask you to upgrade them. So I'm just going to make this my St. Louis class light cruiser, and it's just going to be an upgraded variant of the Brooklyn class. Alright, now do I want to swap out that anti-air gun or keep it? I think I'm going to swap it out and go heavy on the light cruiser batteries. Because I'm going to create another variant of this, which will be heavy on the anti-air guns. Oh, that'll be my Atlanta class cruiser. Yeah, now I don't know if I want to add the anti-air back in. This is my first real go at the naval game, so I'm not giving advice here, I'm just showing what I did. And looking at the production cost. So I'm just going to save it, and I'll start producing some of these light cruisers, and then I'll make an Atlanta class variant. Maybe when I get radar, I'm not sure, but this video is already kind of running long for me. And just getting through the first year, since I explained so much, I probably should have just tried to cover more content in a faster way, but I'll work on that in the future. Alright, so it just hit January 1st, 1937. I'm going to start into Concentrated Industry 2. I have 248 political power, but I'm going to hold it till I get 250 to add in my land doctrine cabinet member. Spanish Civil War is still going on, you can see those casualties. Germany just reoccupied the Rhineland. I completed Neutrality Act. I'm working on Arsenal Democracy. Next will be Scientist Haven, but I'm focused on getting through to the Federal Housing Act to get rid of the Great Depression. Got my Navy still training, everything's going good, and I'm going to end this video here and work on more for the next video.